The door to my house stood wide open. A man's laughter echoed from the living room. And in the kitchen, my daughter sat hunched, shoulders trembling, hiding her tears behind a pile of dirty dishes. I froze on the threshold. A glass shattered somewhere inside. The sound sharp, cold, slicing down my spine. Then that laugh again, rough, defiant. A sound carved into my skull, telling me that the place I once called home now belonged to someone else. Just hours ago, I believed today would be the best day of my life. 9 months at war, I pictured this moment 1,000 times. Claire smiling at the porch, Sophie running into my arms, and me handing her the little bracelet I carved from spent bullets through long, frozen nights on guard duty. But all of it was an illusion. On the table by the door, the letter I sent home from the front still lay sealed, dust on the envelope. 9 months, and Claire had never opened it. I stepped forward, my heart pounded, tearing at my chest, and then I saw him. A buzz-cut man, sitting with his legs crossed, arrogant, in the same wooden chair where I once read stories to my daughter. He smoked lazily, swirled his glass of wine, and glanced at me with eyes half mocking, half daring. Claire, my wife, stood beside him, silent. No warmth, no welcome. Her face wasn't the woman I married. It was hollow, tired. A stranger's mask. She didn't move toward me, didn't speak. Her silence told me I'd already lost. I looked at Sophie. She clutched an old family photo behind her back, pulled down from the wall. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but still held one burning truth. Dad will come home. Dad will save me. The stranger chuckled, his voice sharp, cutting. Welcome home, Marine. This chair's mine now. Your wife chose me. And that little girl, she'll learn soon enough to obey. Every word he spoke was fuel on the fire inside me. My body locked tight, every finger trembling with restraint. I wanted to tear that smile from his face. But I knew one wrong move, and the first to suffer would be my daughter. I swallowed the rage, breathed deep, and my voice came out low, cold as forged steel. This house still carries my sweat, my daughter's memories, and you'll never erase them. That night, I understood. What awaited me was worse than any battlefield I had ever survived. And if I had known that it was the last time I'd see my family whole, maybe I would have done things differently. My name is Trevor Ellis, 38 years old. If you asked who I am, I'd say, a former Marine, 15 years in uniform. I watched brothers fall right in front of me. I thought I was strong. But truth is, I was just an ordinary man. A man who knew how to fire a rifle, finish a mission, but not how to hold on to his family. I was born in a small Kentucky town. Dad was a miner. Mom ran a corner shop. My childhood smelled of coal, hands cracked from work, and dinners where Mom tried to hide her worry in her eyes. At 18, I refused to be buried there. I signed the enlistment papers. I thought I'd find meaning out there. And I did. But I lost plenty too. 15 years of service forged me hard as steel. I knew hunger, knew night marches, knew how to stay calm with bullets slicing the air. But no training ever taught me how to be a husband or a father. I met Claire on leave. She was a school teacher. Her smile so kind. It made me forget I'd just buried a friend. I remember that first coffee. My hands shook around the cup. Claire asked, "You're staring off. What are you thinking?" I said, half joking. "I'm thinking, if I miss that train tonight, maybe something better will come along." I was right. I missed the train, but I found my wife. We married simple. No gowns, just wildflowers she picked herself. That day she squeezed my hand and whispered, "I don't need a hero. I just need a husband who comes home safe." I believed I could keep that promise. But life wasn't that simple. When Sophie was born, I thought I'd found light. Her eyes, just like her mother's. Her smile, exactly mine. Every deployment, I carried her photo in my pocket. Changed it every year. On lonely guard shifts, that picture gave me a reason to breathe. I made a habit. At every posting, I sent Sophie something small. A carved pencil, a foreign coin, a postcard. She kept them in a wooden box. Called it Dad's time capsule. It was the only proof I was still in her world. When I came home on leave, I didn't take them on fancy trips. I just wanted the simple things. Friday nights with burgers in town. Sunday afternoons, fixing the washer with Claire. Grilling corn in the backyard for Sophie. Those moments meant more than every medal I ever earned. But distance eats at you. Calls grew shorter. Claire smiled less. Her eyes looked tired, distant. I told myself it was the job, or caring for her sick mother. I was wrong. One night, I wrote Claire a long letter from base. Told her how much I missed her. The smell of soap in her hair. Sophie's sleepy voice. I folded it. Sent it home. When I returned, it was still on the table, unopened, covered in dust. That moment cut deeper than any wound I carried from war. The core taught resilience, but nothing prepared me for loneliness. Some nights I thought, if I died out there, maybe Claire's life would be easier. Easier than waiting for a man half here, half gone. It was a coward's thought. But it was true. I wasn't a hero. I was just a man, losing everything that mattered. People praised Claire. Strong soldier's wife. But I knew she was breaking. Hospital bills for her mother. Teaching all day. Raising Sophie alone. All I gave her were paychecks and empty promises. I'll be home soon. Money doesn't buy sleep. It doesn't wipe hidden tears. Claire became a shadow, and me, too far away to notice. Sophie grew up missing me. Claire said some nights she hugged my photo and whispered, "Good night, Daddy." Only then she'd fall asleep. When I came home, Sophie clung to me, as if letting go meant I'd vanish again. I was happy and ashamed, because I was never truly there for her. And then Marcus Hale appeared. The bar owner, whispers of violence, always slipping free. He hunted fragile women, and Claire, burdened, exhausted, was prey. I don't know when it started, but the night I walked into my own house, I knew. He'd already planted himself in my family. The only thing that kept me standing was Sophie. She looked at me with fear, yes, but also with trust. That trust burned bright, like a lantern in the dark. And in that moment, I understood. The real battlefield was never overseas. It was right here, in my home. And this time, I wasn't fighting for my country. I was fighting for my daughter. The first night back, I couldn't sleep. I rented a cheap room, just 3 blocks from my house. A sagging bed, a small window, facing the street I once called home. I sat there, staring at the yellow glow from Sophie's window. Every time that light went dark, my chest tightened, afraid she was being forced to cry herself to sleep. I had guarded bases in the Middle East, held rifles through nights below zero, but I'd never felt as helpless as I did sitting there, so close to my own home, and unable to walk in. The next morning, I returned. I stood under the old tree out front, hiding in the shadows. From a distance, I saw Sophie step out with a trash bag. She looked thinner, hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled. Her eyes darted around, as if afraid to be seen. Then the door slammed open. Marcus walked out, coffee cup in hand. "Move it, girl. Don't drag your feet." My fists clenched so hard my nails cut skin. I'd heard plenty of shouting in war, but hearing a stranger scream at my daughter, that nearly broke me. And what cut deepest was Claire standing behind him, silent. Not a word, not a step forward. Her eyes empty. That night, my phone buzzed. It was Sophie, her breath shaky, choked with fear. "Dad, I'm scared." My hands shook. "Where are you?" "In my room. They don't know I'm calling." "Dad, strangers came. Talking with Marcus? With Mom. About selling the house. And they said if you come back." Her voice cracked, cut off by a sob. Footsteps echoed in her hallway. "Listen to me, Sophie," I whispered, forcing calm while my heart exploded. "You just hold on. I'm here. I won't let them touch you. Do you believe me?" Her voice trembled. "I believe you, Dad. If you're here, I'm not afraid." The line went dead. I sat frozen. I'd heard children cry in war zones, but hearing my own daughter choke back tears inside my own house, that sound shattered me. The next day, I saw Claire with Marcus. She wasn't the simple woman I'd married. Her hair styled, makeup sharp. In her hand, a bag of expensive meds. I knew them. Cancer treatments. For her mother. My heart sank. Marcus had bought her. Paid with hospital bills. She'd been cornered. Until she chose him. I burned with anger. And pity. Angry she let Sophie live in chains. Pity for the years she carried it all alone. Claire looked up. Saw me from across the street. For a moment, I saw guilt. And helplessness. Then she turned away. Clung to Marcus's arm. As if I never existed. That night, Sophie called again. Her voice barely a breath. "Dad, they said if you show up, they'll make me watch. They want me to see it." The words froze me. I'd imagined 100 nightmares, but never this. My own daughter used as a weapon against me. The next day, I spotted her at a small market, carrying a basket, milk, bread, nothing more. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, then dropped fast. She lowered her head, pretended not to know me. As she walked by, a note slipped from her hand. I picked it up. "Dad, they're watching me. Don't reveal yourself. I believe in you." My chest caved in. My 15-year-old daughter had to pass secret notes to her father, in the middle of a safe city, in the house that was supposed to protect her. That night, I watched from the dark. Men arrived, handed Marcus a folder. He laughed, clapped them on the back. "This neighborhood's ours soon." I caught fragments: transfer, financial pressure, no way out. Claire stood by, her hands shaking, eyes wet. I understood. This wasn't just infidelity. It was organized. Marcus wasn't just a parasite. He was a pawn in something bigger. And my family? Just collateral. I broke. I called the police. An anonymous tip. 2 hours later, a squad car pulled up. For the first time, I hoped it was over. Minutes later, the officer shook Marcus's hand, shared a laugh, and drove away. No arrests. No questions. I staggered. They'd bought the police too. There was no easy road left. Late that night, I saw Sophie on her knees, scrubbing Marcus's shoes. He leaned back, sipping wine. Claire stood nearby, head turned, hands shaking. I wanted to storm in, tear it apart. But I knew, if I moved too soon, Sophie would pay first. One evening, I saw Claire step into the yard. Her eyes met mine. For a second, a storm of conflict flashed across her face. Her lips moved, almost whispering words. Then she turned, walked away. I knew she was trapped. Between her mother's illness, Marcus, and me. But none of that excused her silence. Not while Sophie suffered. That night, Sophie called again, her whisper broken. "Dad, they said tomorrow you'll sign the papers. If not, they'll do something." In front of me, tears poured down my face. "Listen to me," I said. "I survived bombs and bullets. But I've never feared anything like your words right now. You are the only reason I'm still standing. I promise you, Sophie, tomorrow will be different." The line went dead. I stared out the window. The house glowed with light. But to me, it was a prison. And my daughter was its prisoner. I told myself, I once thought losing brothers in war was the worst pain. I was wrong. The real pain is hearing your own daughter cry. Inside your kitchen, every night, I sat by the window of my cheap motel room, staring at the house that once was home. The living room light flickered, dim, then bright, like the weak breath of someone dying. I'd never seen my own house look so foreign. Each time Sophie's window went dark, I imagined her crawling under the blanket, biting her lip to hold back tears. I feared the day she'd stop crying altogether, because that would mean her heart had hardened. And that thought chilled me to the bone. I had to act. I bought a burner phone. New SIM, hidden. That afternoon, I waited near the corner store. When Sophie came out with groceries, I brushed past her, slipped the phone into her hoodie pocket. Her eyes lit for a moment. She gave the smallest nod. That night, I waited. 9:30, 9:45, nothing. At exactly 10, the phone rang. I grabbed it, heart racing. But it wasn't Sophie. "You looking for this, Marine?" Marcus's voice rasped, followed by the snap of plastic breaking. He chuckled. "There's no room for toys in my house. 48 hours. Or the girl learns how to watch." I clenched the phone until it cracked. I'd faced bombs, ambushes, death itself. But never had I felt so cornered by such a coward. The next day, I found Claire at the hospital. The hallway reeked of disinfectant and cold coffee. She sat curled on a plastic chair, clutching a folder. "Do you even know how our daughter is living?" I asked. She flinched, eyes red. "You think I don't hurt? Without the money, my mother will—" "And Sophie?" I cut her off, voice sharp. "You let our girl serve him like a slave?" Her hands shook. She shoved a key into my palm. "In the storage room, there's a box of papers. I can't keep them. Trevor, I'm trapped." I looked at her, half fury, half pity. As I turned to leave, she spoke again, her voice like a knife. "Sometimes, I wish you hadn't come back. Because you coming back only made it worse." I froze. Those words hit harder than any rifle butt to the chest. That night, I watched from the yard. Marcus sat with his legs crossed. Sophie on her knees, scrubbing the floor. He tossed a shoe. "Clean it, faster." Her hands shook. But instead of bowing her head, she nudged the wine glass on the table. It tipped. Red poured down his pants. Marcus cursed, lunged up, and for one split second, I saw defiance in her eyes. Before he yanked her to her feet, my body shook. My daughter still had fire, and I knew, if I didn't save her, that flame would die forever. The next day, I brought photos to the station. Strange cars, times of comings and goings. The officer glanced over the file, tone flat. "Mr. Ellis, your wife is still there. This is a domestic matter. Without a direct statement from your daughter, we can't act." "She's 15. I slammed the desk. "You gonna wait for bruises first?" He sighed. "We follow procedure. Hire a lawyer." I walked out into blinding sunlight, still cold to the bone. That evening, Claire came out with the trash. I whispered her name. She turned. Guilt filled her eyes. "I know I'm wrong," she whispered. "But if you sign, maybe they'll spare Sophie." I gripped her shoulders. "If we teach our daughter to bow every time she's threatened, we lose her forever." Claire broke down, covered her face. "I never wanted this. I have no choice." I stared at her trembling body, and I knew she was both victim and guilty. Late that night, one of Sophie's classmates slipped me an envelope. Inside, her note. "Dad, 2:17 a.m. I'll open the curtain. If I see you, I'll know I'm not alone." At the minute, the curtain shifted. Blue glow of her phone lit her face. I raised my fist, then opened it. "Our signal for good night." She copied me. Closed the curtain. A moment of seconds, but it saved my heart from breaking. The next morning, cops knocked on my motel door. They handed me a restraining order. Claire's signature scrawled at the bottom. My voice cracked, muttering like a madman. I, a father, forbidden from being near his own daughter. The door shut, leaving me with a piece of paper, cold as handcuffs. That night, I stood under the tree again. Through the window, I saw Marcus twirling the bullet shell bracelet, the one I carved for Sophie. He spun it once, then tossed it into the sink. Metal on steel rang out, sharp, hollow. It echoed through me like the last flag falling. I stood frozen, not knowing if that sound marked the end or the drumbeat of a storm about to begin. That night, the wind tore through the trees. I stood still, heart pounding like war drums. Marcus had said 48 hours, and the clock had run out. I knew, if I didn't walk in tonight, Sophie would never believe in me again. I gripped the cookie tin, the recorder hidden inside. Ethan waited outside in the car, camera ready. I drew a deep breath and knocked 3 times, hard, on the door that used to be mine. Marcus opened, eyes cold, breath stinking of liquor. His grin cut sharp. "Well, the hero's home. Come in. Let your little girl see how brave you really are." I stepped inside. The living room blazed with light. On the table, stacks of contracts stamped Northgate Redevelopment LLC. Claire sat pale, trembling. Sophie stood behind her, eyes swollen red. But when she saw me, a spark lit inside her. Marcus shoved a pen toward me. "Sign, and this ends." "Don't sign. And tonight your daughter learns a lesson." I stared at the papers. Claire's messy signature already scrawled across the page. My chest clenched. "Claire, you really signed?" She sobbed. "I had no choice. The meds, my mother. I can't lose Sophie. But if I didn't," Marcus cut in, sneering. "Exactly. Your wife knows the rules. What about you, Ellis? Sign or lose it all?" He jammed the pen into my hand. "Prove you're still a man." I sat frozen. Inside my skull, 2 voices screamed. Sign, lose my soul. Refuse, lose my daughter. Then Sophie's voice split the air. "Don't sign, Dad. I'd rather suffer than see you bow." Her cry cracked the room like lightning. And then the back door opened. A cop stepped in. The very same desk sergeant from the station. Claire saw him. Her face drained white. No, it can't." He tossed his cap onto the table, smirking. "I told you, domestic matters sort themselves out. Truth is, I own a piece of Northgate too." My blood froze. Not just Marcus. The police. That's why every door had slammed shut. Marcus drew a blade, drove it into the table with a crack. Steel glared in the light. "Time's up. Sign, or your daughter learns real fear." "Don't!" Claire screamed, only for Marcus to bark her silent. I looked at Sophie. Her body shook, but her eyes burned. That fire kept me standing. Marcus pressed the knife deeper. Then Sophie moved. She lunged, snatched a wine glass, smashed it against the wall. Red splattered like blood. Dad will never sign. You'll never win, she screamed. The room froze for a second. Marcus roared. Charged at her. I rose. Stepped between them. You touch her, and you'll regret it. My voice dropped low, the same tone I once used giving orders in war. Amid the chaos, Sophie kicked the cookie tin. It popped open. The recorder rolled out. Red light blinking. Marcus froze, then laughed. You think that toy saves you? He bent down, shouted into the mic. I'll take this house, take your wife, turn your daughter into a slave. Hear me, Ellis? You're nothing but a loser. And right there, he sealed his own trap. Every word caught on tape. Ethan burst through the door. Camera aimed steady. I think that's enough. The dirty cop went for his gun, but Ethan was faster. Twisted his arm, locked him down. Sophie threw her arms around me, her sobs tearing. Dad, I knew you'd come. Claire collapsed to her knees. I'm sorry. I never meant for this. I just wanted to save my mother. I held Sophie close, eyes burning, and I realized the strongest one in this room wasn't Marcus, wasn't me. It was Sophie, the girl who screamed, "Don't sign." The girl who hurled a glass against the wall. Outside, sirens wailed. This time for real. Neighbors had called. But none of us trembled now. The recorder held his confession. Ethan's camera caught the blade. I kissed Sophie's forehead and whispered, You just taught me something. Some battles don't need weapons. Only the courage to stand tall. The crash of glass. The knife slamming wood. Sophie's scream. They fused together into one chaotic anthem. And I knew, from that moment on, my family was no longer the victim. The living room was wrecked. Papers shredded. Glass scattered. Breaths ragged in the silence. Ethan pinned the dirty cop. Marcus, red with rage, sat cuffed. I held Sophie. Her heart pounded against my chest, like it was trying to break free. Outside, red and blue sirens tore through the night. Uniforms rushed in, not the same faces as before. This time, real officers. They dragged Marcus out. But even as he was shoved to the door, he turned back, grinning. Ellis, you think you've won? Northgate doesn't need me. Your daughter will learn what it means to pay. She'll live knowing you couldn't save anyone. Sophie trembled, clung tighter. I stared at him, but inside a voice warned. The nightmare wasn't over, and the hook tightened. If Marcus wasn't the end, who else was waiting in the dark? The door slammed. Claire collapsed. Hands tangled in her hair. Her voice cracked. Hate me if you want, but do you know the worst part? Sometimes I wished you never came back. Because if you hadn't, I wouldn't have to watch Sophie suffer like this. I chose to save my mother, and I threw our daughter into hell. Her confession cut colder than ice, straight through me. I had thought betrayal came from desire. Now I knew. It also came from despair. And despair is deadlier than any enemy I'd ever faced. Sophie knelt beside her mother, tears trembling in her eyes. Mom, I don't hate you, but I need you to know. I was so afraid. The house fell silent once the sirens faded. The three of us sat in the kitchen, yellow light stretching shadows up the wall. No words, only the tick of the clock, and Sophie's shaky breaths. She gripped the bullet shell bracelet, the one I'd pulled from the sink, her hands pale, veins showing. Every car that passed outside made her flinch, eyes wide. Dad, what if they come back? She whispered. I pulled her close. I'm here, no matter what. I'm not leaving again. But I knew that promise weighed heavier than any war. By morning, the paper carried the headline. Northgate scheme exposed. Redevelopment company under investigation. A photo of me and Sophie, blurred in flashing lights, was on the front page. Ethan's recording had gone public. Thousands of shares. But comfort came with a price. My phone buzzed, over and over. Anonymous messages. One froze my blood. That black SUV last night. Just a greeting. Watch your daughter's window. That afternoon, I drove Sophie to school. She hugged her backpack, knuckles tight around the bracelet. At the gate, I spotted a black SUV, parked a few blocks away. Sophie followed my gaze. Dad, they're still here. I squeezed her shoulder. Don't be afraid. You have me. You have the truth. And you've already proven you don't bow. The SUV pulled away, but in the rearview mirror, I caught the eyes of the man inside, still watching. That night, Claire came down the stairs, coffee cold in her hand. She sat across from me, voice raw. Trevor, I don't know if we can ever go back, but don't leave me alone in this guilt. I was wrong, and I'll carry it. But please, Don't let Sophie be left alone between us. I looked at her. Not a wife. Not anymore. Just a broken soul. I didn't know where this marriage was heading. But I knew one thing. We had to walk forward together. For the girl upstairs, tossing in uneasy sleep, I leaned back on the couch, heard Sophie stir in her bed. Moonlight spilled across the bracelet on the table. I picked it up. Cold metal biting into my palm. And I understood. The battlefield wasn't Iraq. Wasn't Afghanistan. It was here, keeping the light in my daughter's eyes alive. Engines rumbled outside. I closed my eyes. Maybe it was just another car. Maybe it was the darkness, circling back. But this time, I wouldn't run. I would sit here, through the night, until I was sure my daughter could finally sleep in peace. Morning light spilled into the kitchen. The mess from last night still lingered. I sat by the window, staring out. I hadn't slept. It had been a long time since I'd seen the sun touch this house. But even in daylight, shadows still clung to the walls. Sophie came down the stairs, the bullet shell bracelet in her hand. She turned it slowly between her fingers. Her eyes dark, circles heavy. When I smiled, she managed a faint smile back, but the fear in her gaze was still there. As I made breakfast, she moved quietly. She took an old picture frame, a family photo from a summer long ago. The frame scratched, glass cracked, but she wiped the dust, hung it back straight on the wall. I stood watching, silent. But inside, I felt it. She hadn't given up on this family. Claire stepped in, hair tangled, eyes swollen. No apology, no explanation. She only slipped off her wedding ring, placed it on the table, then turned to wash the old mug I used every morning. The gesture cut deep. Not a goodbye, not a reconciliation. It felt like a confession. We broke it, but we still share one thing left: our daughter. At noon, I walked Sophie to the door. A short car horn sounded. I turned. A black SUV, parked at a distance, then rolling away slow. No clear plates, no faces, just the low hum of the engine. Sophie gripped my hand. "Dad, they're still here." I squeezed back, said nothing. We watched until the car vanished. I knew this wasn't the end. Northgate was still out there, circling like a ghost. That evening, as the sky dimmed, Sophie sat at her desk, drawing. I leaned over. Her sketch, 3 figures holding hands under a roof. Far off, a black car, drawn only as a shadow. She looked up. "Dad, if they come back, will you still be here?" I didn't answer right away. I just sat down, held her close, and in her eyes, I saw what no battlefield had ever taught me. Courage isn't pulling the trigger. It's staying, looking into the fear of someone you love, and promising you won't walk away. Night fell. I sat by the window. Moonlight poured across the table. The bullet shell bracelet lay beside Claire's wedding ring. 2 cold pieces of metal, 2 emblems of the past, one of war, one of love. I lifted the bracelet, placed it gently next to the ring. Their shadows overlapped in the moonlight, blurred, unclear. Outside, an engine faded down the street. Upstairs, Sophie slept, clutching her half-finished drawing. I whispered to myself, I don't know where this family goes. I don't know if the dark will return. But I know this. I'll sit here. I'll hold the light until my daughter is grown. And if the dark knocks again, I won't run. The moon lay across the roof, quiet, like a promise left unspoken.